transition time.
Sound rolling, Zoom 20. थोड़ा मेरे तरफ.
Give me 2 minutes. In Drishti and Radio Nazariya, since we run Radio Nazariya and it was the Radio Nazariya had started like 4 years back. It's a community radio, right? Radio Nazariya is a community radio station, and like we communicate with the communities around Kanpur and around the old city area. We have been working with like the community and their issues, and we have been encouraging people to like raise their voice. And
While we had been engaging with the radio space, with the community radio space, uh, what we had realized is that the community radio space is increasingly becoming social awareness messaging kind of a space. The initial ideas of the community radio that it would also allow sound artists, music artists to be able to experiment through an alternative space like the community radio seem to be losing out. So that's when that has been bothering us for some time. And
Transmitterance was really maybe a project articulated at the junction of two key ideas. One was the transmitter as a technology, and what form over the years the transmitter has taken. Very easily said or simply put, it's the radio, right? But the radio comes with certain kinds of baggages, whether aesthetic, whether political, whether historical. It's been used in specific contexts, and then you see a significant shift when you have the community radio come into being.
एक नई तरह की शुरुआत है, खास करके उन लोगों के लिए जो साउंड और आर्ट को लेके काम कर रहे हैं. इसलिए ये बहुत नया प्रोग्राम है. हमारे लिए भी एक मौका है जहाँ पर हम सीख पाएंगे कि साउंड आर्ट किस तरह से काम करता है और रेडियो के साथ हम उसको किस तरह से जोड़कर देख सकते हैं.
while doing it, we had constantly been thinking that if we had to bring in arts into the community radio space and sound art, because radio is an audio platform, what might be the different ways of doing it? So that I think is the genesis for the idea of transmitterance, as to how can we engage sound artists, sound practitioners, to be able to do experimental art form, but for a community radio kind of a space, which is totally different from a gallery or a studio space.
So the world certainly has many triggers and many provocations to the human sensorium, and sound certainly being one of those, right? So so transmitterance was really trying to think through sound and sound landscapes, meeting the technology of the transmitter. So what happens when you listen to sound pre-mediated by this technology, which is actually public technology, right? It is monitored by the government, very strictly monitored in what you can do and what you can't do. So for example, you cannot play news on community radio stations. Like that's part of the law.
the pandemic which is going on, and we can't step out of our house, like we're locked inside and we don't know, we can't see like what's outside. We can it's just like media is the only thing we are connected, the digitally, like we are connected to the outside world. And
पेंडेमिक में हमने बहुत सारे ऐसी चीज़ें देखी हैं जो जिनको लोग हिल चुके थे उनको देखकर. लेकिन एक टाइम आएगा कि जब हम ये भूल भी जाएंगे. तो क्या और आर्ट एक ऐसी चीज़ है जो इन चीज़ों को जिंदा रखती है. जो बहुत पुरानी जो चीज़ें हैं उनको अगर हम देखते हैं आर्ट के थ्रू ही आज हम देख पाते हैं ज़्यादातर. तो क्यों ना हम इस तरह की जो भी इवेंट्स हैं, जो भी घटनाएं होती हैं पूरे देश में अलग अलग जगह पे, तो उनको साउंड आर्ट के थ्रू उनको प्रिजर्व भी हम कर.
The larger idea of the program is to work with 5 sound artists who would go on to make 5 each productions or maybe even more. So that's the larger idea. But to be able to select these sound artists, we would start off with a call for applications where they would have to pitch their idea, their existing work, and why do they want to get involved in this program. So post the application, we would, we're guessing we'll have a large stream of application that will come in. So through a pre-jury and a jury process, we would have to shorten it down to 5 final candidates.
What kind of institutional frames and frameworks are we making while we build culture-based work? Now and I feel like Transmitterance then gives us that opportunity to overturn every process we have known as arts organizations, as cultural organizations. Certain questions on thinking through concept notes of what they would already like to do. How do you honor that labor? So that's, for example, been a really big question in organizing this.